Dr. Jessica Miller had been staring at her monitor for so long that the coffee beside her had gone cold twice. The asteroid tracking program at NASA's Deep Space Network facility wasn't usually this demanding, but something had been nagging at her for the past hour. The object she was tracking didn't move like any asteroid she'd seen in her 15 years on the job. "Hey, Chris," she called out to her colleague, "can you verify these trajectories for me? Something's off about the deceleration curves." Dr. Christopher Wells rolled his chair over, his forehead creasing as he studied the data. "Those aren't natural objects," he muttered, reaching for his phone. "They're decelerating against solar gravity." Before he could dial, every screen in the facility flickered. The emergency broadcast system activated, but instead of the usual test message, Director Hammond's face appeared, looking grimmer than Jessica had ever seen him. "This is not a drill," he announced. "Protocol Omega is now in effect. All personnel report to their designated stations immediately." Jessica felt her heart skip a beat. Protocol Omega, the contingency they'd practiced but never expected to use. Humanity's response to first contact with hostile intent. High above Earth, Admiral Cathax of the Hegemony Fleet observed the blue planet with 6 of his eye stalks, while the other 4 monitored tactical displays. His mandibles clicked in what his species considered a smile. Another primitive world to add to the Empire's collection. "Scans confirm nuclear capabilities and fossil fuel usage," his science officer reported. "Typical pre-FTL civilization. They haven't even colonized their moon properly." "Standard procedure, then," Cathax commanded. "Broadcast the ultimatum." The message boomed across Earth's communications channels in every known human language. "Primitive species of Sol 3, you have been chosen for integration into the hegemony. Surrender your sovereignty and accept our guidance, or face immediate extinction. You have 1 planetary rotation to comply." In the White House Situation Room, President Rebecca Chen studied the alien vessels on the tactical display. "Are we ready?" she asked, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. General Marcus Thompson nodded. "Operation Looking Glass is in place. The Artemis program was never just about returning to the moon. It was our cover for building our first space fleet. They're hiding in the lunar shadow, waiting for your command." And Project Thunderchild. Dr. Miller is bringing it online now. Those weather satellites we've been launching for the past decade. They're our first line of defense. The president stood, straightening her jacket. "Send our response." Back at NASA, Jessica's fingers flew across her keyboard, initializing systems that had been hiding in plain sight for years. Globally, thousands of weather satellites began shifting their orbits microscopically, forming an electromagnetic web around the planet. The response to the hegemony's ultimatum was broadcast from every radio telescope and communications array on Earth, a simple message that made Admiral Cathax's eye stalks twitch in confusion. "We choose neither." "Arrogant primitives," Cathax snarled. "Begin the invasion sequence. Target their military installations first." As the alien fleet began to move, Jessica allowed herself a small smile. The hegemony was about to learn why humans had survived every catastrophe their death world had thrown at them. They were about to discover that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology, but their inability to accept defeat. "All stations," she broadcast, "initiate Protocol Omega. Let's show our guests why you don't pick a fight with a species that turned a death world into their playground." Above, the first hegemony ships began their attack run, their weapons charging. They never noticed that Earth's magnetic field was already changing, responding to commands from humanity's hidden defense grid. They were about to learn that on Earth, even the planet itself fights back. Colonel Mike Davidson watched from Moonbase Alpha as the first hegemony energy beams lanced toward Earth. The aliens were about to learn their first lesson about humanity. Appearances could be deceiving. "Execute Operation Scattershot," he ordered, his voice steady despite the stakes. "Let's show them why we built those weather satellites." Across Earth's orbit, thousands of satellites simultaneously activated their true purpose. The electromagnetic web, disguised for decades as weather monitoring equipment, hummed to life. As the alien weapons struck the field, their energy dissipated in a spectacular display of artificial aurora. Admiral Cathax's command center erupted in chaos. Impossible, his weapons officer screeched. Their primitive technology couldn't possibly. Sir, another officer interrupted. Detection systems showing multiple signatures emerging from the lunar dark side. Captain Emily Torres led the first wave of Earth's hidden fleet. The ships, their designs refined from recovered UFO crashes and decades of secret development, emerged from the moon's shadow like avenging angels. "Remember your training," she broadcast to her pilots. "These bastards expected sheep. Show them they found wolves instead." The hegemony fleet's formation broke as human ships executed maneuvers their tactical computers insisted were impossible. Each Earth vessel was a hybrid of reverse-engineered alien tech and human ingenuity, piloted by crews who'd trained their entire lives for this moment. Back at NASA, Dr. Miller coordinated with Davidson's Lunar Command. "Gravity pulse cannons are charged to maximum," she reported, "ready to demonstrate why you don't underestimate human physics." The massive cannons, hidden in plain sight as lunar mining operations, powered up. They fired concentrated gravitational waves, weapons the hegemony had never conceived because they violated their understanding of physics. The first volley caught 3 alien capital ships, crushing their hulls like aluminum cans. Cathax's mandibles clicked frantically. How? Their energy readings suggested primitive fusion at best. "Sir," his science officer's voice shook, "analysis suggests they've been deceiving us. Those satellites, they're part of a planetary defense grid far beyond what our initial scans showed. And their lunar base, it's not a simple mining operation." On Earth, in the Situation Room, President Chen received the first battle reports. "Status of civilian populations. Our shelters are holding," General Thompson reported. "And the aliens are learning that Earth's atmosphere isn't as simple as they thought. Our ionospheric modifications are playing hell with their targeting systems." Around the globe, humanity's real technological achievements revealed themselves. What the hegemony had dismissed as primitive climate control systems were actually atmospheric processors capable of generating electromagnetic storms. What they'd seen as basic satellite communications was a neural network of defensive platforms. Torres' fleet struck hard at the hegemony's flanks. "Push them toward the gravity wells," she ordered. Her ships herded the alien vessels into predetermined kill zones where Davidson's lunar cannons could tear them apart. "This is impossible," Cathax raged as another of his ships succumbed to weapons that shouldn't exist. They were supposed to be primitive. "Sir," his tactical officer reported grimly, "we're detecting more ships launching from Earth. Their ground-based anti-orbital defenses are also coming online." Davidson allowed himself a grim smile as he watched the battle unfold. "Launch the drones," he ordered. "Show them why humanity never stopped looking at the stars with both wonder and wariness." Thousands of automated fighters emerged from hidden silos across Earth's surface. Each was piloted by AI systems based on human neural patterns, unpredictable, creative, and absolutely lethal. The opening battle for Earth was ending its first hour, and the hegemony fleet had learned its second lesson about humanity: never mistake preparation for providence. As their ships burned in orbit, Admiral Cathax realized that this primitive species hadn't just been waiting for first contact. They'd been planning for war. And they were winning. Major James Wildcard Roberts stood in the command center of what appeared to be a decrepit mining vessel. 3 hours into the war, and the hegemony still hadn't figured out why their ships kept disappearing near the asteroid belt. "Target locked," his weapons officer whispered. "They still think we're just another piece of space debris." The mining vessel's hull plates suddenly retracted, revealing banks of railguns salvaged from a dozen different alien crash sites over the past 50 years. The hegemony cruiser never saw the attack coming. Hypersonic tungsten rods, mined from the very asteroids they'd been hiding among, tore through their shields like they didn't exist. "Physics," Roberts grinned, "is physics. Doesn't matter how good your energy shields are when something moving at relativistic speed says hello. In orbit, the hegemony's tactical eye was having the digital equivalent of a nervous breakdown. Human ships weren't following any known combat doctrine. They were using mining lasers as weapons, solar collection arrays as heat lenses, and communication dishes to focus devastating microwave bursts. Their patterns make no sense. The hegemony's combat analysts reported to Admiral Kathax. They're using garbage scows as torpedo boats, maintenance drones as fighters. Every time our eye adapts, they change tactics completely. Kathax's flagship shuddered as another human attack struck home. How are they coordinating these attacks? We've knocked out their primary communication satellites. The answer lay with Dr. Miller's team at NASA. While the aliens had indeed destroyed the obvious military communications networks, humanity had built redundancy into everything. Every civilian satellite, every deep space probe, even the quantum internet infrastructure, all of it could be repurposed for military coordination. Status on Operation Chaos. Miller asked her team. The adaptive algorithms are working perfectly, her assistant replied. Every time their AI develops a counter to our tactics, we're feeding it false pattern recognition data. It's trying to predict human behavior using alien logic. Robert's flotilla of disguised warships struck again, this time emerging from behind a cluster of communication satellites the hegemony had dismissed as primitive. His ships moved in patterns derived from Earth's predators, wolves hunting in packs, sharks circling their prey, eagles diving for the kill. They're not just random attacks. One of Kathax's junior officers realized, horror dawning in all four sets of eyes. They're using combat techniques evolved from their planet's apex predators. The hegemony's rigid battle formations, perfected over millennia of space combat, were worse than useless against humanity's fluid, evolving tactics. Every time they adapted to one strategy, humans switched to another, using whatever tools were at hand. In the White House, President Chen watched the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. How's the orbital defense network holding up? General Thompson allowed himself a small smile. The aliens still haven't realized that we've been using their own attacks to power our defensive systems. Every energy blast they fire is being absorbed and redirected by our electromagnetic web. We're literally turning their own weapons against them. Robert's voice crackled over the quantum encrypted channel. Permission to initiate Phase 3. Granted, Chen replied. Show them why humanity never throws anything away. Across the solar system, seemingly abandoned space stations, old satellites, and derelict probes suddenly activated. Decades of space junk transformed into a coordinated weapons system, creating a deadly maze of debris and ambush points. Your species is insane. Kathax broadcast in frustration after another failed attack. This defies all military logic. That's because you're fighting the last war, Roberts replied. His voice carried on all frequencies. Humans, we're always fighting the next one. And we use everything, absolutely everything, as a weapon. As if to emphasize his point, a swarm of modified Voyager-class probes, their original 20th century frames housing modern weapons, emerged from the outer solar system. The hegemony fleet found itself caught between Robert's guerrilla forces and humanity's oldest space-faring children, finally returning home for one last mission. The third hour of the war for Earth ended with a clear message. Humanity hadn't just prepared for this fight. They'd spent their entire space-faring history rehearsing for it. Lieutenant Commander Rachel Hunter checked her squad's environmental suits one last time. The modified Navy SEAL gear looked primitive compared to the hegemony's sleek armor, but that was exactly the point. No one expected much from equipment that looked like it belonged in a museum. Remember, she briefed her team aboard their stealth insertion pod, we're descendants of persistence hunters. While they evolved in controlled environments, we came from a world that tried to kill us every day. Their weakness is our strength. The target was the hegemony's command and control ship, arrogantly positioned at the edge of Earth's gravity well. Its crew never noticed the tiny pod approaching through their debris field, disguised as just another piece of battle wreckage. "Breach point located," whispered Sergeant Maya Rodriguez, the team's tech specialist. "Their hull is actually less dense than we expected. They rely too much on their energy shields." Hunter smiled behind her visor. Time to show them why humans never stopped learning to fight hand-to-hand. "Cut us in." The plasma torch, reverse-engineered from a crashed scout ship decades ago, sliced through the alien hull like butter. The hegemony's internal sensors didn't even register the intrusion. They were calibrated for energy weapons and explosives, not primitive cutting tools. As atmosphere vented from the breach, Hunter's team slipped inside. The aliens had artificial gravity and climate control throughout their ships. Another weakness. Humans, adapted to Earth's varying conditions, had trained to fight in every possible environment. Their venting atmosphere in sections 3 through 7. An alien crewman reported frantically. But our internal sensors show no borders. Impossible. Their security chief clicked. No species could survive in those conditions without powered armor. And our sensors would detect powered armor. The chief's confidence lasted until Hunter's team emerged from a maintenance shaft, their suits thermal masking making them nearly invisible to alien sensors. The hegemony crew, adapted to perfectly regulated environments, never stood a chance against humans who trained in Earth's harshest conditions. "Engineering secured," Rodriguez reported 10 minutes later. "You need to see this, Commander. Their engine technology. It's not as advanced as we thought. Just more specialized." Chief Engineer Tom MacGyver Martins was already interfacing his hybrid tech with the alien systems. "Their problem is they developed their technology in a straight line," he explained while hacking their propulsion controls. "Humans, we developed it like a tree, branching everywhere at once. They never expected anyone to combine technologies the way we do." On the bridge, Admiral Cathex received the reports with growing horror. How are they moving through depressurized sections? How are they bypassing our security? Their technology is inferior. "Sir," his second-in-command interrupted, "we're losing control of ship systems. They're using our own maintenance protocols against us. The humans are treating our advanced systems like they're fixing primitive machinery." Hunter's team reached the bridge in record time, using routes the aliens considered uninhabitable. The hegemony crew, faced with humans who moved through lethal environments, like they were taking a stroll, surrendered without firing a shot. "Flagship secured," Hunter reported to Earth Command. "You're not going to believe what we found in their databases." The captured ship's computer cores revealed the hegemony's fatal assumption. They had dismissed humanity's primitive technology without understanding why it was still in use. Humans hadn't kept old tech because they couldn't advance. They'd kept it because they never discarded anything that might prove useful. President Chen's voice came over the quantum comm. "Status of the prisoner." "Admiral Cathex is secure," Hunter replied. "And he's already talking." Turns out the hegemony never developed interrogation resistance training. They thought their tech made them invulnerable. Martinez's laugh echoed through the captured ship's corridors. "Hey, Commander, want to see something funny? They're advanced computer systems. They're vulnerable to coding tricks we figured out in the 1980s. They never expected anyone to try something so primitive." Earth's first captured hegemony capital ship marked a turning point in the war. The aliens had expected to face a primitive species armed with crude weapons. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy who had turned their own technological arrogance into a fatal weakness. Jake Sullivan sat in his command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, surrounded by walls of holographic displays. His team of cyber warfare specialists had spent the last 5 hours doing what humanity did best, turning the enemy's strength into a weakness. "Ready for Operation Mindstorm," he reported to the Joint Chiefs. The hegemony's greatest advantage is about to become their biggest vulnerability. The aliens had created the most sophisticated quantum communication network in known space, linking their entire fleet into a single unified consciousness. They'd never considered that this perfect connection could become a perfect weapon. "Begin the upload," Sullivan ordered. "Let's show them why humans tell horror stories." The first wave of data hit the hegemony fleet like a tsunami. Through their captured ships, Earth's cyber warriors flooded their networks with humanity's history. Not the sanitized version, but the raw, unfiltered story of a species that had climbed from the mud to the stars. What is this? A hegemony captain watched in horror as images flashed through their neural interface. Humans surviving ice ages with nothing but fur and fire. Ancient warriors continuing to fight after injuries that should have been fatal. Modern soldiers dragging wounded comrades through impossible conditions. "Sir," his communications officer trembled. "They're not just sending data. They're sending experiences, emotions. Their entire neural interface network is being flooded with what it feels like to be human." Sullivan's team had weaponized humanity's greatest stories. The hegemony crews felt the terror of ancient humans facing saber-toothed tigers, the determination of pioneers crossing oceans in wooden ships, the raw courage of firefighters running into burning buildings. "Second wave," Sullivan commanded. "Show them what happens when humans face extinction." The alien crews experienced the Cuban Missile Crisis, felt the cold determination of humans willing to destroy their own world rather than submit. They'd witnessed humanity's response to natural disasters, diseases, and catastrophes, not with resignation, but with unstoppable resolve. How? Admiral Cathax's replacement demanded from the new flagship. How does a species survive this? Their own world tried to kill them countless times. The answer came in the third wave: humanity's victories. The eradication of diseases that had plagued them for millennia. The transformation of deadly environments into farmland. The taming of fire, wind, and atom. Each triumph built on mountains of failure, powered by something the hegemony couldn't comprehend: the absolute refusal to accept defeat. In the White House, President Chen received Sullivan's update. "What's the effect on their fleet?" "Ma'am, we're seeing widespread psychological breakdowns. Their neural networks were designed to share tactical data, not process the emotional impact of Earth's history. They're experiencing every human triumph and tragedy simultaneously." The hegemony's rigid command structure began to crack. Alien crews, overwhelmed by the raw data of human existence, started questioning orders. Some ships broke formation, unable to process the revelation that they were fighting a species that had turned even their own near extinctions into stepping stones. "Final wave," Sullivan announced, his fingers dancing across quantum interfaces. "Let's show them our dreams." The alien fleet experienced humanity's hopes, their visions of the future. They saw a species that looked at the deadly void of space and saw not conquest, but connection. A civilization that dreamed not of domination, but of discovery. "This is impossible," the hegemony's fleet coordinator broadcast on all channels. "Your species, you shouldn't exist. Nothing survives what you've survived. Nothing thrives in these conditions." "That's where you're wrong," Sullivan replied, allowing his voice to carry to every alien ship. "We don't just survive. We turn survival into an art form. Every disaster you're experiencing in our history, that's not our weakness. It's our strength. We're not showing you these things to scare you. We're showing you why fighting us is futile." As the fifth hour of the war ended, the hegemony fleet faced a new reality. They had expected to find a primitive species ready for conquest. Instead, they found themselves fighting the accumulated determination of a race that had turned hardship into evolution, crisis into opportunity, and defeat into fuel for victory. The psychological warfare had succeeded beyond expectations. The hegemony wasn't just losing a battle, they were losing their certainty about their place in the universe. General Amanda Stormwalker stood in the Antarctic Weather Control Center, watching as Earth's atmosphere transformed into a weapon. Decades of climate engineering, disguised as attempts to fight global warming, were about to show their true purpose. "All stations report ready," her meteorological officer announced. The ionosphere is charged to maximum capacity. Operation Thunderstorm is green across all continents. Begin the sequence, Walker ordered. Let's show them why Earth's weather made us who we are. High above, the remaining hegemony ships detected strange energy patterns forming in Earth's atmosphere. Their sensors, calibrated for space warfare, failed to recognize the planetary-scale weapon forming beneath them. Status report on the anomalies, the new hegemony commander demanded. Sir, they appear to be merely thunderstorms, his science officer replied. Primitive atmospheric disturbances, nothing that could threaten our remaining fleet. That assumption lasted until the first electromagnetic hurricane struck. The hegemony's energy shields, designed to deflect plasma and laser fire, proved useless against nature's raw power, amplified and directed by human ingenuity. At NASA, Dr. Miller coordinated with Walker's team. Electromagnetic containment fields are holding at 300% capacity, she reported. The storms are feeding directly into our defensive grid. They had turned Earth's natural defense systems, its magnetic field, atmospheric layers, and weather patterns, into a synchronized weapon. Every lightning bolt was precisely targeted, every storm front calculated for maximum effect. Impossible. The hegemony's science officer watched in horror as their shields flickered and failed. They're using their own atmosphere as a conductor. The entire planet is becoming one massive electromagnetic pulse generator. Walker allowed herself a grim smile. Initiate Phase 2. Show them what happens when you combine technology with planetary forces. The strategically positioned weather satellites, their true purpose finally revealed, began focusing the planet's electromagnetic energy. Artificial auroras became weapon platforms. Storm systems turned into delivery vehicles for concentrated electromagnetic pulses. Multiple ships reporting critical systems failure. The hegemony's tactical officer reported frantically. Their primitive weather is somehow bypassing our most advanced defenses. In the Situation Room, President Chen watched the atmospheric battle unfold. How long can we maintain the storm network? The beauty of it, Walker replied, is that we're not creating this energy. We're just directing what Earth already produces. The planet itself is fighting back. The hegemony had never encountered a species that could weaponize their own world's natural phenomena. Their combat doctrine had no protocols for facing a civilization that had spent millennia learning to survive and harness their planet's most destructive forces. Miller's voice crackled over the quantum comm, detecting multiple shield failures in the enemy fleet. The atmospheric conductors are working better than we expected. Earth's magnetic field is literally tearing their ships apart. A desperate transmission came from the hegemony flagship. This defies all known physics. How are you controlling these forces? We don't control them, Walker broadcast back. We learned to work with them. Every storm that tried to kill us taught us something new. Every hurricane made us stronger. We didn't tame our world. We evolved with it. The combined effect of thousands of directed lightning strikes, electromagnetic pulses, and artificially enhanced storm systems was devastating. Hegemony ships, their technology useless against nature's fury, began falling from orbit. You turned your entire planet into a weapon, the hegemony commander accused. No, Walker corrected. Earth has always been a weapon. We just learned to be its ally instead of its enemy. Every natural disaster you see is a primitive threat. That's millions of years of evolution teaching us how to survive. And now, how to fight. As the 6th hour of war drew to a close, the remaining hegemony ships faced a humbling reality. They had brought the most advanced technology in known space to conquer Earth, only to be defeated by the very forces that had shaped humanity's evolution. The planet that the hegemony had dismissed as a primitive death world had become humanity's greatest advantage. They had forgotten the most basic rule of evolution. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. and Earth had been trying to kill humans for millions of years. Captain Emily Torres stood on the bridge of her captured hegemony vessel, watching the tactical display with Lieutenant Commander Hunter as the enemy fleet began to fragment. The intelligence they'd extracted from the ship's quantum databases was proving more valuable than they'd imagined. Incoming transmission, Rodriguez announced. It's from the hegemony's third battle group, but on a restricted frequency. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the alien face of Sub-Commander Zextal. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of nervous determination in his species. "I speak for 37 ships," he began. We have questions. The human historical records you transmitted, they're real, aren't they?" Torres exchanged glances with Hunter. "Every single one. We didn't just survive our death world. We thrived on it. And now we're offering you a choice." Aboard the Hegemony flagship, chaos erupted as reports of defections began flooding in. Ships from subjected species, inspired by humanity's example of resistance, were breaking formation. The rigid hierarchy that had maintained control for millennia was crumbling. "This is unprecedented." The Hegemony's new admiral raged. "How dare they question the natural order?" "Natural order?" Zextal's voice cut across all channels. "We've seen humanity's history now. There is nothing natural about oppression. These humans, they don't just fight for survival. They fight for choice." In the White House, President Chen received Torres' update with careful optimism. "How many ships are actually considering defection?" "More by the minute," Torres replied. The Hegemony made a crucial mistake. They filled their fleet with species they'd conquered, never thinking those species would find common cause with another primitive race. The quantum networks, still flooded with Earth's history, showed conquered species something they'd never seen before. A civilization that refused to accept domination, that turned weaknesses into strengths, that evolved not through control but through adaptation. Hunter's voice added to the transmission. "Ma'am, we're detecting massive power fluctuations in the remaining loyal hegemony ships. They're preparing for a final assault." "Let them come," Chen replied. "Operation Thunderstorm is still active, and now we have allies who know their weaknesses." Zextal's fleet, now openly in rebellion, took up defensive positions alongside Earth's forces. The former hegemony commander's tactical knowledge, combined with human ingenuity, created a hybrid defense strategy unlike anything seen before. "Your species showed us something remarkable," Zextal transmitted to Torres. "You showed us that true strength isn't about domination. It's about adaptation, about working together." The remaining hegemony loyalists launched their desperate attack, only to face a defense that combined their own technology with human tactics. Earth's electromagnetic storms, guided by Zextal's knowledge of hegemony shield frequencies, tore through their remaining defenses. "You don't understand," the hegemony admiral broadcast frantically. "Without hierarchy, without control, there is only chaos." "Wrong," Torres replied. "Without your control, there's evolution. That's what you never understood about Earth. Life doesn't thrive through control. It thrives through change." The battle reached its climax as the combined Earth rebel fleet executed a maneuver that would have been impossible for either force alone. Human unpredictability merged with alien precision, creating a fighting style that the hegemony's tactical computers couldn't predict. "Look at them," Hunter marveled, watching the integrated fleet movements. "They're already adapting, already learning to think differently." President Chen's voice carried across all channels. "To all hegemony forces, you've seen our history. You've witnessed our resolve. But more importantly, you've seen what we offer. Not submission, but partnership. Not control, but evolution." The 7th hour of the war ended with the largest mass defection in hegemony history. Ships that had once been tools of oppression became symbols of liberation, their crews learning what humanity had known all along. True strength comes not from dominating the environment, but from adapting to it. And in adapting together, they created something the hegemony had never imagined possible, a force that combined the best of all species, bound not by chains of command, but by chains of choice. Dr. Jessica Miller stood before the Hegemony Council, her presentation ready. 8 hours after their first attempted invasion of Earth, she faced not conquered enemies, but a civilization forced to question everything they believed. Your species, the High Counselor began, all 8 eye stalks focused on her, has done the impossible, not just in defeating our fleet, but in making us question principles we've held for 10,000 years. Behind Miller, Captain Torres and Zextal stood as living proof of what humanity had achieved. Not just victory in battle, but something far more profound, a fundamental change in how species could interact. We didn't come here to demand surrender, Miller began, activating a holographic display of Earth. We came to show you something you've forgotten. The power of adaptation. The display shifted, showing Earth's history of mass extinctions, ice ages, and catastrophes. But after each disaster, life emerged stronger, more diverse, more resilient. Your empire is built on control, Miller continued. Ours is built on change. You see a primitive world that should be conquered. We see thousands of worlds that could evolve together. President Chen's voice joined the transmission from Earth. The choice before you isn't between victory and defeat. It's between stagnation and growth. The council chamber erupted in discussion as Miller presented her evidence. Earth's primitive technology wasn't primitive at all. It was adaptable. Their crude methods weren't crude. They were versatile. Every perceived weakness was actually a different kind of strength. Impossible, one counselor protested. No species can maintain technological progress without strict control, without a unified direction. Really? Miller smiled, gesturing to Zextal. Your own people are proving otherwise. In just 8 hours, they've created combat techniques that neither of us could have developed alone. Torres stepped forward, presenting tactical data from the combined fleet engagements. We don't need to control evolution to advance. We need to embrace it. The High Counselor raised a hand for silence. You defeated our most advanced fleet. With weather. You turned our own neural networks against us. You united our subjected species not through force, but through example. What exactly are you proposing? Miller's next hologram showed the solar system, but not as it was. As it could be. We're proposing an alliance, not based on dominance, but on mutual evolution. Every species brings something unique. Every world offers new challenges to adapt to. Our greatest strength, Chen added, isn't our technology or our tactics. It's our ability to change, to grow, to become something new. We're offering you that same opportunity. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The hegemony had spent millennia perfecting a single path of development. Earth had shown them thousands of possible paths, each with its own advantages. The universe is too vast for any one species to have all the answers, Miller concluded. But together, we could become something none of us could achieve alone. Zextal stepped forward. My people have already seen the truth of this. In combining human adaptability with our technical precision, we've created something new, something better. The High Counselor rose. All eye stalks focused on the future Earth's hologram promised. For 10,000 years, we thought we were advancing civilization. Instead, we were limiting it. Your victory over our fleet wasn't just military, it was evolutionary. The treaty that followed wasn't a document of surrender or dominance. It was a blueprint for change. Earth would share its adaptability, its creativity, its endless drive to evolve. The hegemony would share its technology, its knowledge of the galaxy, its understanding of diverse species. As Miller left the council chamber, Torres caught up with her. You know, the captain smiled. When I woke up this morning, I didn't expect to help rewrite the laws of galactic civilization. That's the thing about evolution, Miller replied, watching as human and alien engineers already began exchanging ideas. The best changes are the ones you never see coming. In the end, the hegemony learned the most important lesson Earth had to teach. True power doesn't come from controlling the universe. It comes from learning to dance with its chaos, to embrace its changes, and to grow stronger with every challenge it presents. The war ended not with Earth joining the hegemony, but with the hegemony learning to become more like Earth.